Inside Out 2 is probably the Disney film of recent years that I was most looking forward to. It arrived on Disney Plus in the UK a couple of days ago. Couldn't wait to watch it, and I'm pleased to say that generally it was really thoroughly enjoyable. This was released, of course, this year in 2024. It's directed by Kelsey Mann. It's written by Meg LaFauve and Dave Holstein, and we have a great voice cast including Amy Poehler, Maya Hawke, Kensington Coleman, Liza Lapira, Tony Hale, Lewis Black, Phyllis Smith, and Ayo Edebiri. And we also have personal favourite John Ratzenberger, who voices Fritz for about 0.2 seconds, but it's nice to have Ratzenberger in another Pixar film. And this one is basically all about Riley coping with all of the changes and new emotions. I'll talk about those in a moment. Now that she's getting older, the puberty alarm button has been activated, and this actually takes place at hockey camp. Personally, I found that to be really boring. I don't care for hockey. The setting didn't interest me. The specifics of the games didn't interest me. I really didn't care less. But there was so much more in this for me to enjoy. The only other thing I didn't like, before I get in with some positives, is I found that inside Riley's head became kind of not boring as such, but not as good as the beginning or the previous film. Once we got to about a third of the way into it, I don't want to say what happens, but something happens where the characters have to go on this quest and their main narrative begins. And I just found that wasn't as interesting as it could have been. Basically, from the point we meet the video game character. I'll say no more than that, but once we meet that character, everything after that inside Riley's head just wasn't as good as I'd expected, wasn't as good as the scenes leading up to it, or in the previous film. I'm not saying it's bad, but the expectations were really high, and those scenes just weren't quite as interesting. But the film as a whole was still really enjoyable. And as I said, we do have some new emotions in this film. We have Anxiety, who is voiced by Maya Hawke. Really like the character design. It works really well, and the character definitely has a really strong role to play in this particular film. We have Ennui, not a character I particularly enjoyed that much. The character is voiced by Adèle Exarchopoulos, and I don't mind the character design, I just didn't particularly care for the character that much. We also have Embarrassment, who's voiced by Paul Walter Hauser. Quite like the design of that character. It's a very cute looking character. It's a character I can see doing well as a plushie. I don't know if they've released plushies for these characters. It wouldn't surprise me if they have. And we also have Envy. Envy is voiced by Ayo Edebiri, and I feel like that character maybe wasn't the best representation of Envy, actually. I don't think they handled that emotion or that character very well at all. So that part of it I didn't hate, but I think they could have done a bit more with Envy, or not included Envy, because I just don't think it worked very well, at least with that representation of that character. But in general, having more characters there definitely makes it a little bit different. It helps to show that as you grow up, you probably are going to experience a wider range of emotions. And for the most part, certainly with Anxiety and Embarrassment, I think they chose some pretty good ones, and in general, the character designs are not too bad. We do also have some other messages in this. It's not just about coming to terms with emotions. We also have a message of friendship and loyalty, as unfortunately Riley is maybe not acting the best that she could in certain situations. And I also feel like it's a very accurate representation of somebody in her position, where she's faced with wanting to be somebody, wanting to prove herself to some people, but maybe she's trying to prove herself to the wrong people when really she should be trying to prove herself to herself only and her existing friends. And obviously this is all against the backdrop of hockey, which, as I said, I didn't care for. I didn't really enjoy that part of it at all. It means nothing to me. But I realise there will be an audience for that. There are hockey fans out there, so just because it didn't appeal to me doesn't mean it won't work well for other people. The animation quality itself, gorgeous, fantastic, no problems, absolutely stunning. Is that a surprise? I doubt it. Do I think it's a good sequel? I do. I don't think it's quite as good as the first film, but the first film did raise that bar a lot. So while I don't think it's as good, it's still pretty decent. And while it's not perfect, as I said, once the characters, the emotions go on their main quest, their main journey, that I just didn't think it was that interesting. But there's so much else going on. There's so much more at play, and there's a lot to offer here. And then we have the beautiful animation and the great voice acting, of course. And ultimately, I'm very happy with it. As I said, this was one that I was really looking forward to, and I'm pleased to say that in general, I'm not disappointed. If you've seen the first Inside Out film and you liked it, definitely check out Inside Out too. I'd say it's a pretty decent film. Love to know what you think of it. Personally, I rather enjoyed it.